Give it a second for this. There we go. Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, reporting live from my little cabin in the woods. And the one thing about our reads that I love more than anything, I like to get into character. So this was really easy for me because I got into my closet and just pulled out really what I pretty much wear every day when I'm here at the house. But we are here tonight with our guest author, Ilene English, who has written an incredible book called Hippie Chick, Coming of Age in the 60s. I love this. I love the cover. It just makes me so excited and nostalgic for all those. Of course, I'm just a little bit younger than you, so the 60s has always been fascinating to me. I love all that was going on with all the changes in the world and the clothing and the dress and the freedom. I mean, I went to school one day in a suit with pantyhose and pumps and started high school, and they said, you don't have to wear that anymore. You can wear whatever you want. And we went from bell-bottom blue jeans, platform shoes, I had clogs, and work shirts with our heads in bandanas, and I was in heaven. So Ilene, welcome. You are reporting out in Sonoma, California, in the Sonoma area. You've just moved there. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh boy. Well, I have a husband, and he's a good guy, and we just moved in town. We lived in a beautiful house that we built ourselves up on the coast, and someone came along and offered us buckets of money if we would move away and give them our house. And it was really painful to do because it was our heart and soul. But we did it. We felt like we're getting older, let's just do it. And so we took the money and ran, and he's still up there, though. We have a second piece of property up there. So he's still there, but I'm here in the new house, and it took us 6 months to find it because of COVID and all these people trying to move out of the cities because of COVID and because of all kinds of political stuff. They want to get into the burbs and into small towns to raise their children. And it became very hard to find a place to buy. But I suddenly found this wonderful house. I'm really, really happy here. You're in my sunroom right now.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love all the air and the light. I just can go there. It's just, I couldn't tell if it was inside or outside because it's all windows, right? Yeah.
Yes. This room is, yeah, we live in this room. It's so great.
That's fantastic.
So, anyway, I spent a bunch of years writing Hippie Chick. I put it away for a long time while we built the house, and I became a grandma and all kinds of things, but I could never put it away completely. And when I turned 70, I thought it's now or never. So I got an apartment, and I just holed up there by myself and just started doing it. And it turned out to be quite a journey for me. My story, there's lots of fun things in the story that I know you would love, and I'll read some of those for you tonight. There's also a lot of sad things in the story, a lot of things that happened to me in my life. And I had to relive them to write the story. And so it was painful. And I spent a lot of time sobbing and healing, actually. I had so many realizations in doing that. Like, as a child, I thought I was unloved. And it was because I was the youngest and everybody had left. I had 5 siblings and they all had left. And my mother was very sick, and there was just nobody taking care of me from an early age. And I took it in that it meant that I was not lovable. And it was so not the truth. But that's how children do, you know, they think that everything's about them, right? And so I carried that with me for a lot of years, thinking that nobody loved me. But the truth of the matter is, I'm a very loving person, so I must have got that from somebody. You know, I think I was really loved. I was loved by all my big sisters and my, everybody. But it took me a long time to come to that and realize it and rest in it. So that came from writing the book, you know, with the realization and all the tears I had to let go of, all that pain of that it wasn't true. It was never true.
Well, the one thing about your book that I knew it took you a while because it's fully developed. You know, a lot of books, they just rush them out in a year. I knew that you had put so much into it because it's so raw and you told the truth. I mean, you really told what it was like. And we tend to fantasize about Woodstock and all these wonderful free love experiences. And actually, there was a lot of yuck, yuck that came along with it. And you're such you're empowering all of us because you went through this, you know, horrendous thing and championed it. And now you've written a book about it. I was talking to her just a few minutes before we went online, and I said, have you seen the Tales of the City, the Laura Lindley, you know, Olympia Dukakis show that was about a young woman from Iowa who goes out to San Francisco. And I don't know where I was when that movie came out. I never saw it originally, but I just watched it and it brought it all back to me, because no matter where you go out into the world, we all kind of go out into a lot of adult situations, and that, you know, we aren't sure if we're making the right choices and navigating, but we do the best we can, right?
Well, you know, my mother died when I was 16, and I was left alone with my father. And even though we had a big family, they were all gone. And suddenly it was just me and him. And he was a little bit of a scary guy. I didn't really have a relationship with him. It wasn't like that then, you know. And suddenly it was just me and him. And it was scary. I was in high school and I do things like sneak out, and he'd listen in on my phone calls and he'd say, why do all the boys like you? You're like a dog in heat, you know, that kind of thing. He had no parenting skills at all. So fortunately, my sister sent me a plane ticket to leave. And as soon as I graduated high school, I was out of there. And I write a piece in the book saying goodbye to him, because even though he was rough, I did love him, you know, and it was hard to leave him alone. I told my sister, I can't come. Who's going to take care of daddy, you know? And she said, you have your own life to live. You have to leave him. And it was real hard for me. And so there's an excerpt in here that I could read if you want, saying goodbye to daddy.
I would love if you do it right now. That'd be perfect.
Okay, let's see if I can find it real fast.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
Okay.
There was no turning back. Carol would not take no for an answer. Still, I struggled with choosing what I wanted over what I thought I was supposed to do. Who was I to think I could go off and live my dream? I knew that staying in Irvington was dead end. There was nothing for me there. And besides, the fact that my father was such a pain, the reality that I was moving to California was a dream come true. Soon after high school graduation, my father drove me in his precious 1949 Cadillac to Newark Airport. Once parked, he pulled out the beat up suitcase he had tied with rope and carried it to the gate for me. Now, don't talk to any strangers, he warned, looking straight at me, and don't forget to write. I won't, I promised. I'll send you some writing paper and envelopes and stamps too, so you won't have any excuses. Okay, Pops, I said, feeling his anxiety building as it got closer to my leaving. His feelings, as usual, taking precedence over my own. I slipped my arm in his as we waited together, neither of us knowing what else to say. As I got ready to leave, he gave me a big hug, the kind that says, I don't want to let you go. I rested there in his arm for a moment, and maybe for the first time ever, the familiar smell of his Italian cigars reminding me that I was really leaving him. Then came the boarding announcement. I turned and took my first steps towards my new life. I looked back one last time. I wanted to see if my father was still there. He was the one waving wildly. I waved back, surprised by the realization that my father actually loved me. Tears filled my eyes and I whispered under my breath, "Goodbye, Daddy. I love you too." I then climbed the steps to my first airplane and left New Jersey forever.
Can't even imagine. How old were you? Were you 18 yet? But
I was 17. I was 17.
I had a hard time leaving at 17 just to go to college, let alone to go clear across the country on a plane.
So I didn't know I was going to I didn't know I was going. I thought I was just going to my sister's house and living with my sister.
Ah.
Haight-Ashbury wasn't a thing yet. It was early. It was 1963. It was before all that happened. So I wasn't going looking for something. I was just getting away from something, which was my father.
Excuse me.
But after I got to there, it was Marin County. My sister had her husband and they lived in a beautiful house. And I was blown away because I don't know if you read the part that I was raised in the middle of a shopping center. Yeah, my father wouldn't move. He wouldn't sell. So they built stores all around us. So we were the only house for about 3 blocks. And there were no trees. There were no neighbors. You know, there was pretty much nothing. I mean, there was nobody like looking out for me. I was just kind of a feral kind of kid, you know, and suddenly I was in Tiburon, California, which is a really fancy place in a really fancy house. And I was completely blown away. I couldn't believe the colors, the blues and the greens and San Francisco skyline. I mean, they had this fabulous view. And so I was pretty wowed by the whole thing. And then one day the phone rang and my sister got off the phone and it turns out that my brother-in-law owned an apartment building in San Francisco. She got off the phone, she said, "David, I have to go show the apartment. Someone wants to see the apartment." And he says, "Well, maybe Ilene would like to do that." And he asked me and I said, "I don't know." He says, I'll read it to you. He says, "Ilene," David called in his soft-spoken way, "would you be interested in driving the Cadillac into the city to show the apartment?" He was referring to Carol's beautiful maroon Cadillac convertible with the white top. By myself? Oh, sure, that would be fun. I couldn't believe my good fortune as David wrote out directions to 955 Clayton Street and handed me the keys. Carol showed me where the emergency brake was and made sure I understood how to curb the wheels when they parked on a San Francisco hill. Then with a bright smile, she helped me put down the top. Giddy with excitement, I waved and was off on my first solo adventure into the city. As I approached the Golden Gate Bridge, San Francisco came into focus, bright, sparkly, and stunning in the late morning sun. My thoughts turned to Carol, how tall and beautiful she looked that morning in her Hawaiian muumuu with her shiny, long, dark hair hanging free. My sister had given me a special gift that morning, a ponytail of human hair that she had brought back from Thailand. She knew that my crazy Jewish hair had always been a source of despair for me. I wanted long, straight hair like she had, and I spent every day of my life trying to tame my wild curly hair. Carol spent the morning securing and weaving the hairpiece into my hair. It looked incredibly real, and I was excited to wear the ponytail into the city. The Cadillac handled like a dream. I cranked up the radio and happily sang along with Puff the Magic Dragon. My old life back in New Jersey felt very far away. 3 guys, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
So I'm going to read a little bit more if you want about what happened on that trip. 3 guys were waiting for me as I pulled up outside the building. "Hello, I'm Tom, and this is Bud, and I'm Bob. What's your name?" "I'm Ilene. Nice car you got there." "Yeah, isn't it?" I said, feeling out of my league. The place was a beautiful brown shingled apartment building a few blocks off 8. I unlocked the apartment as instructed, and we went inside. "What a great place this is," the guys exclaimed at the large open living room with gold shag wall-to-wall carpeting and beam ceilings. Everyone, including me, spread out to look at the rest of the place. Coming back together, Bud said, "Yeah, I really like this place, but hey, it's too much money for us guys." The others nodded in agreement. Still, we lingered at the apartment, talking and imagining what it would be like to live in this great place. I learned that Tom, Bud, and Bob were in their mid-20s and had moved here from the Midwest. I think I'll skip what they would look like and stuff. I was 17, still a virgin, and barely off the boat from New Jersey. But I was driving a Maroon Cadillac convertible and had a long, beautiful ponytail. You know, there are actually 4 bedrooms if you count the attic, Tom said. Maybe we can find someone to take the 4th bedroom. Then it would be affordable. Yeah, that would work. Hey, how about you, Bob asked as he turned to me. Where do you live? Me? I just moved here from New Jersey. I'm staying at my sister and brother-in-law's house in Tiburon. Interested in moving out, living here with us? Bob asked. I think it's a great idea. You can find 3 nicer guys than us, Tom said. I don't know. I'll ask my sister what she thinks, I answered, my voice tentative. Yeah, I agree. You could have the bedroom with the balcony near the kitchen, and I'll take the attic room, Bud offered. When I got back home, I told Carol and David about the idea of moving in with these 3 guys. Were they nice guys? Well, yeah, they were really nice. Well, what do you think? You want to live in San Francisco with 3 guys? I guess so. Okay, then call them and tell them it's a deal, Carol said excitedly. But how will I pay the rent? I don't have a job or any money. How about if Eileen's share is on us? David suggested, looking to Carol. Yes, of course. And Eileen, you don't have to tell them. We'll just divide the rent by 4, and your share will be a gift from us to you, Carol added. Wow, David and Carol want me to do this. I couldn't believe it. So much for my father telling me not to talk to strangers. I was about to move in with 3 of them. I was excited and feeling a bit scared as I dialed the phone. I'll be the 4th roommate, I announced to Bob. Great, hey, hang on a minute. Then he yelled to the others, hey guys, it's Eileen on the phone. She says yes. All right, let's do it, Bob said enthusiastically when he came back to the phone. A few days before moving in, Carol took me to her doctor to be fitted for a diaphragm. Even though I was still a virgin, the doctor gave me a pelvic exam. I didn't know what a pelvic exam was, and I was shocked to find out. My sister smiled cheerfully as we left the doctor's. I guess in her mind, now that I was armed with birth control, I was ready to begin my new life. And so just a couple of months after my arrival in California, I was moving to San Francisco. It was the summer of 1963.
I mean, who wouldn't want to read this book? When I was reading it, I was going, oh my gosh. And you're like 17?
Yep. And a virgin.
Yep. It's just mind-boggling to me, but I couldn't put it down. The pages were turning because I could just picture you. I mean, I had a picture of you in my mind, you know, coming from this one setting and going to another. It had to have been just, I mean, how did you even sleep at night? I'd probably been I don't know if I'd been scared or excited or what, but.
It was pretty thrilling. I mean, things moved along pretty quickly. And I didn't really have time to really think about it, but I still had this fake ponytail on when I moved in with them. And I didn't want to take it off because I didn't think they would like me if I didn't have long, beautiful hair. So I moved in with them with the fake ponytail, and every night I couldn't wait to go in my room to take it off because it started getting stinky. And I didn't know about washing it. I was just really feral. And the next day I'd put it back on and go out there, and it was really a problem. And one day I decided that I was going to come home with a haircut, and there's a little scene about that in the book, like, what happened to your hair, you know? Oh, I had it cut, you know. And they went, really?
Oh, you know, and it's so funny because men haven't a clue about hair pieces. You know, we do as women. It's very apparent to me when somebody has on a male has on a hairpiece. But I went to church. This reminds me, I went to church one day and I had a ponytail and I had this clip-in thing that gave me cascading curls down middle of my back because my hair was wet. So I just stuck it in and went. And all the guys behind me in church go, I love it, your hair is grown out. And I turned around, I said, seriously? Last week it was like here. I go, you guys think it grew out that long? They go, that's not your real hair. I mean, isn't that funny? That's so the ponytail bit the dust. Yep.
Yep. I threw it in the trash
Yep.
to
Well,
be seen again.
it didn't seem to stop you any though.
No.
You got to read the book, people.
Yeah.
Well, let's open it up for some questions. I know you guys are dying to know some things more things that happened. And I'll begin with, what's your family situation now with your siblings and stuff,
Well, they're all past now. I'm old now. I've lost them all except my brother. Yeah. So, yeah, my parents died a long time ago. So I feel like, I've been pretty much alone in the world for a while. But I do have a daughter, and you can read about her in the book. She's, I'm very, very close to her. And I have a granddaughter, Parker. And so they're my family. Besides my husband, I have a daughter and a granddaughter and a son in love, we call him. And
Aw.
sweet little family. So I'm very grateful for the family I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have some questions about anything to do with the book? Go ahead.
No, well, Eileen, I had to come because I'm Eileen, it's just perfect. And I read your book more than a year ago. So I'm remembering your story as you're telling it, but I don't know if you remember, I think we chatted online. I'm in New Jersey and I can picture everything that as you were telling the story, like even getting on the Newark Airport, the plane, and those days you were still climbing up the steps, to see, and for your father to be waving at you, like you could really see him because you're on the tarmac, like that was the way it still was then. Yeah. I can almost picture where your house was. I know South
shopping center.
Yeah, I know I know the area, but I don't know that exactly. But I was curious as to, when writing a memoir is so hard because, like you described, you have to deal with some painful things to get through writing it, and you have to think about what others in your family, how they're going to read the book and agree or disagree. I'm one of 5 and you're one of 6. Now I'm at the top of the 5, so it's a different story. But I mean, if you talk to my siblings and we're at you're talking about the same thing, the same experience, and we have very different experiences because there's 15 years between myself and the youngest. So depending on your ages and all. So when the book came out, how were your siblings able to read it? Were they?
They were gone. My brother even hasn't read it, which hurts my feelings. Oh. I don't know why he hasn't read it. So my family hasn't really read it, except my daughter has, and she loved it. But my ex-husband read it, and I was scared of that because there's some bitter feelings there, or there aren't now. But he said I was very accurate. So he was pleased. And I tried to be really kind to my brother. I hoped he would read it because I think he was afraid I wasn't going to be kind to him, but I really was.
Look at this picture. It's got some great photos.
Yeah, there's a lot of photos in the book. And that's my old man with the family. Yeah, that's a good photo. I love that.
I do too.
Really typical of how he was. He was it was overwhelming to have 6 kids.
Or 5. So what was the best thing about writing it for you?
Well, it was a huge sense of accomplishment, but also I was able to separate and look at that girl with a lot of objectivity. And I became really proud of her. You know, she really was a survivor and she wasn't going to let anything stop her, you know, and I just think she did a really good job of being resourceful and resilient. And she found her way. And it's sometimes I would look at the book and I would look at the journey of her story, looking down on her as if from above. And I just have so much compassion for her, you know, and all that she did. And that was really helpful to me. That, you know, that to separate from, I'm not a little girl anymore. And I'm more like a parent to her. And I really care about her deeply and I'm proud of her. Yeah. So I think that's one of the big things I got from the book.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm sharing this one too, because this is you with your daughter. It's
Right.
adorable. And is she out there with you too? She out in California?
No, she lives in Seattle. I have another picture that I like to put with that one where she's kissing me on her wedding day. Did you ever see that one? To contrast with
I'll
that.
find it. I'll find it. Keep talking. I'll find it because it's
We're at the end of the book.
yeah,
But
there's
I
some
like,
great photos in here. And you know, it just kind of puts everything into its place when you share the photos too. So
true. But yeah, I mean, she was my success story that I was able to, here it is at the very last page.
here it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? You guys are about the same height.
Yeah.
She a little taller.
And you know, that I was able to, I was a single mom. I was a welfare mom. I had nothing. And that I managed to pull it out, you know, it was a success story. And more than just pull it out, but I did some really great things. And I didn't realize that I had abilities and I could do all kinds of stuff. And I ran a whole marketplace and I made big changes there. And yeah, I did some really good stuff. So, and then, you know, I moved on and became a therapist. So went to graduate school and my daughter and I went to graduate school at the same time. We were
You
both in
guys,
college.
I hope everybody's listening to this because it doesn't matter, you know, the cards you're dealt when you're younger. We can champion anything if we set our mind to it. I think you're such a hero to all of us, Ilene, for your story. And also, what made you write that first word? You know, did you feel just so compelled to write the story that you just couldn't? I mean, what made you write the book?
Well, you know, the first story in the book is my mother finding my mother dead in the bathroom. And I was very nervous because I had been sneaking out with a boy for a couple of years, living a really secret life because my family was Jewish and the boyfriend was Italian and that was not okay. And we were madly in love, he and I, because his mother had died and I held him in my arms while he cried. And so I was bonded with him from that minute on. And there was no way I was going to leave him. And so we just snuck out and I felt so guilty, you know, and I was living such a lie. I would have Jewish stand-ins pick me up from, and my father would take moving pictures of a stand-in, you know, guy, and my Italian boyfriend would be lurking down the street waiting for me.
Oh,
And then one night we had a big fight. This is a story in the book, and I was in my bed crying. My mother came in and said, "What are you crying about?" And I couldn't tell her. And last words my mother ever said to me were, "What's a mother for if you can't tell her your problems?" She walked out dejected, and I made a decision in that moment. I'm going to tell her. I'm going to tell her everything. The next day, I promised myself I'm going to do this. And the next day I was waiting after school for her to come home from work. And she had to go to the bathroom right away. And she ran up to the bathroom, and I'm waiting for her to come down. And she never comes down because she dies on the toilet. And, you know, the first word of the book is my mother's death set me free, because I didn't have to tell her this thing that would have broken her heart. And, you know, I thought I was lucky, you know, but actually I think that I paid a price, you know, not getting to do that one thing that would have taken great courage to do back then. I got a free pass. So anyway, that's the story that starts the book.
Yeah. Well, maybe someday your brother will read the book, and but your daughter did, and she sounds like she's a really big supporter for you, which is important. That's
Yeah.
great. And you have a great relationship with her that you tell each other's secrets.
We're best friends. And my granddaughter, she calls me Yaya. And
Yeah, I love it.
yeah, my daughter gave me that name before she had her baby. She said, "You will be Yaya." And so I am. And my granddaughter's now 13, and we're really tight.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
so precious. Does she show any signs of being a writer?
I don't know. I think about that sometimes, but I'm not sure. She's more of an athlete.
Oh,
She's takes after her dad, and she's a soccer player, and she's strong, and she can do anything physical. And she wants to read my book, but she's not allowed yet. She's not old enough.
okay. Well, I understand that, and that's great that you recognize that too. When you write a memoir, it took you exactly from start to finish. Do you know how long?
I don't, because I put it down over and over again. I didn't want to keep doing it. It was so painful. You know, I had so many things happen that were hard. And so, you know, I think, you know, altogether, maybe it took 5 years, maybe it took 10 years. I'm not really sure. It took what it took. And then I had to redo it again and do it again. You know, I tried to not have any typos in it, and for it to all flow well. And, you know, that all took a lot of time. And yeah, I forgot to put my tiara light on.
Oh, it has a light.
The light. This is
Oh,
important. There we
oh,
go.
well, aren't you the queen for the day? I got to get a picture of that, y'all. Let me get a close up of that, because we don't, it's not every day we get a lit up tiara. Okay, smile. Here we go. Got it. Well, we appreciate you wearing that tonight. That's one of
Yeah,
our,
you have to wear a tiara. Everybody knows that.
yes, I know. And it's interesting when people write memoirs, because it's been a hot topic, and then it kind of became people got mad at people who wrote memoirs. But I have always felt that people who write, no matter what the genre, we can't help it. We just have to get the story out. But that's the great connector, is by us all sharing the stories. Oh, she went and got her tiara. Eileen went and got her tiara. Mine is my this bandana hat thing tonight. But I went to a memoir class, and with Jan Reed, he was a writer with Texas Monthly, and he reminded me a lot of Larry McMurtry, except he wrote nonfiction instead of fiction. And he told me that whatever you write the truth, but remember that your stories have consequences. And he goes, everything you write, the good stuff and the bad stuff, will be a ripple in some kind of pond. So I was very cognizant of understanding that. It still didn't help me, because half my family disowned me when my book came out. So now I go by the Pat Conroy method of writing. Just write the truth. Don't worry about anybody. It's your story. They should have been nicer to you.
You know, there's a story in the book.
He put a few other explicatives in there too, but and that's all in his book. When I shared my story in our Prince of Tides, the story about all the authors who wrote about him. But memoirs have always fascinated me. It's one of my favorite ways to learn about people. And I think your story would be a great mini-series movie, because a lot of people are fascinated with that time period, because there was so much change in the world. And of course, growing up in Kansas, it came 20 years later for us. You guys were ahead of the curve, you know. But when I moved out there, I was expecting that. And what I ended up finding, because I moved out there in '84, was that I lived in San Diego. It was very shallow. It was like, where do you live? What kind of car do you drive? And how much money do you make? And I was like, nobody had ever asked me those questions before. And how old are you? You know, and I go, well, at the time I was like 26, 27. And they go, oh, you know, and you're working in the beauty industry. Well, you're almost done. And I'm thinking, huh? 27 is young. But when I turn 30, they go, what are you going to do now? Because I work for Elizabeth Arden. I go, I'm going to continue what I'm doing. And they said, no, you're kind of over the hill now. And I go, I'm 65 now. I just feel like I'm just getting started. I don't, these preconceived notions, you know, about everything. And I think our biggest fear when we write anything is what people will think about us. But you're lovely, Ilene. You are a lovely person, and I loved your story so much because you were so truthful, and you were just an innocent kid. You know, you went out there in an innocent time, and it changed. So
I think there's not very many books about the 60s written from just one woman's point of view, you know, unless they're famous or something. This is just really not that, you know, it's just one simple woman's story. And I think that's valuable. People are interested in it for that reason.
Me too. That's exactly why I picked your book, because I'm always looking for the story that's not been told. And yours is one that had not been told. So I cannot thank you enough. Anybody else is there anything else you want to read to us? Oh, go ahead, Kathy. What were you going to say?
Ilene, I think I heard you say that you are a therapist, and I just wondered, I've got two questions based on that. Did you know it was healing you as you were writing, since you're a therapist? That's my first question. And my second question is, has anybody that is your client or patient said it healed them? Because that's the reason that I love memoirs most, is that I can step into somebody else's shoes who's about my age. I'm a little younger, but I'm not that much younger. Mm-hmm. And see what they went through, and it kind of brings me back to what I went through. And I'm writing a memoir right now, so I admire you. It's tough to do. It really is. It's the toughest thing I've ever done.
I think that it was on reflection that I realized that a lot of healing happened. I don't think I knew that at the time, and I wasn't writing it for that purpose. I just, like Kathy said, I was compelled to write it. I really had no choice in the matter. It wanted to be written. And my husband wished I would just shut up about it, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't not do it. So that's the answer to your first question. As far as my clients go, since the book has gotten kind of popular, people are reaching out to me and asking me if I would work with them. And the reason they ask that is they feel like I've gone through it. I've gone through divorce, I've gone through loss. I have a lot to share at this point. And I think it comes through at the end of the book. I think the beginning of the book, maybe I'm more the innocent young hippie chick, but I do transform by the end of the book, and I have wisdom and I share it. There was a balance about how much of that I was going to bring into the story. But I didn't want to scare away people who just, you know, young women who just wanted to read a story, you know, and so I kept that into the background. But I do have people that want to work with me based on the book, based on reading the book.
That's
And
wonderful.
it's interesting because, you know, as a therapist, we usually don't share our personal lives with our clients. And so it's kind of like, is it okay? You know, I wasn't sure, I was worried about this. Is it okay to share my story, you know, with people who are my clients? And I don't unless it seems like something relevant to their story, then I might say, I know what that's like because I've been through it. You know, I might say something like that. But yeah, so I've gotten more open. I think that's changing in the field too. Therapists are sharing more of their own personal story with their clients as time goes on, I notice. Yeah. So tomorrow, Kathy, the piece that I wrote will be in tomorrow, and I thought maybe I could read. It's just one page.
Sure. Yeah.
It's at the beginning of the book. It's still in San Francisco. You know, the book goes from San Francisco to Hawaii, to the farm in Tennessee, where I spent time, and then to Eugene, Oregon, and then back to California. But this is still San Francisco. I just thought it's a fun piece, and it's very short. So maybe I would end on that. So one Sunday afternoon, as I was driving down Haight Street, I saw a large group of people gathered in the Panhandle, that part of Golden Gate Park that borders the Haight-Ashbury district between Oak and Fell Streets. I parked my car and walked down the hill to see what was happening. Some guys were sitting on the edge of a big flatbed truck giving away sugar cubes that were apparently laced with LSD to people strolling by. Without hesitation, I held out my hand and popped one in my mouth. There was live music nearby, so I lay down on the cool green grass and hung out for a while before wandering back to my car. I was overcome with happiness when I recognized my MGA parked on the street as if it were more than just a car. I jumped in, started the engine, and began driving it down Haight Street. It was not lost on me that I was driving about as slowly as a car can go while still moving. The street started to undulate beneath me as if it too were alive. I had enough sense to realize that driving was probably not a good idea. So I pulled over, got out, and joined a river of hallucinogenic-induced insanity moving down Haight Street towards Golden Gate Park. Strangers as stoned as I suddenly felt like family. I experienced a free-floating feeling of love for everyone and everything. A sea of people carried me along into the park as if we were one big organism. Someone took my hand, and I was grateful for the grounding. As Sharon Meadows opened up before us, I could see that I was part of a gathering that had grown to biblical proportions. A stage was set up and a group was playing a psychedelic song that seemed to have no end. Women bared their breasts and people danced with abandon. No one seemed to have a care in the world. The fact that we were out in public and completely stoned did not seem to be a problem. We were in that moment as innocent as children. I sat down against a tree and witnessed the 60s unfolding before my eyes.
That's something else. One thing I wanted to ask you, when the first time you drove across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, in the Cadillac, yeah.
I remember I drove across it too, and I've never been so scared in my life because it actually moves. Did you feel the movement in that big Cadillac? I sure did in my car. There's like
single span bridge, so it does, it moves.
And you were all by yourself and you were fine and drove all the way across it.
You did it.
Oh, you're brave, man. That was the scariest thing I've ever done because it goes out like 15 feet to one way to 15 feet the other way. And then, of course, you know, I remember I just left California when that incident happened with the earthquake and the cars dropped.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't the Golden Gate, it was another.
It was the East Bay, yeah. I was there.
Yeah, yeah. What, did you have some earthquake experiences?
Not really. Nothing dramatic, thank goodness. They're pretty rare. There's other things that have happened. My car got flooded recently.
What's that?
Well, there was flooding recently. My car was parked in my garage and 4 feet of water came and that was the end of my Prius, you know, because it doesn't like water. But no,
I didn't realize they had a flood. Isn't that amazing? And it happened in your house too, or just your?
Not this house. No, it was in an apartment that I rented. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's
I've
really,
been very blessed, knock on wood. I've no fires, no earthquakes, everything good. Just
well,
like.
we're looking forward to hearing more of the stories. Now, tomorrow I'll be posting this video up on our Breathless Bubbles and Books page. And then you'll be back on Thursday with a blog. And everybody, you've got to check out her book. It's really, gosh, it was just right in my hand. What do I do with it? I've lost.
I want to just say, I just want to thank you because you are a treasure to authors, you know, and you're tireless and you just care so deeply, and there's not that many people like you in the world. So I really,
you're gonna make me cry.
You've given me a really opportunity here, and I really appreciate it.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, because I was telling Mandy today, this is more to me than just a business. It's what I do. And everybody should read your book. If they read your book, maybe they'll understand why we see kids do a lot of things we don't understand. You know, everybody's trying to find their way, and you've explained it in such a way that it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're a therapist now is just so life affirming to me, because you took what was, you know, the cards you were dealt and you turned it into a winning hand.
Yeah.
And so, congratulations on the book. I hope that later on, as this all settles in and you're doing well, that we'll get to hear some more. I have a feeling you're a pretty magnificent storyteller. You've just got to let that brew a little while, and you take as long as you want, because I think it's important that people take as long as they need to write the story and do it right. And you did. And so there it is, everybody. Hippie Chick, coming of age in the 60s, read all about it. And we'll be having this recorded and up on my Kathy L. Murphy channel tonight. Thank you for subscribing too, by the way. Trying to get everybody on board to subscribe to our channel, because we're getting close to 200 videos I've done of author events and book club meetings in 1 year. So
that's amazing. You are amazing. You're a force.
Well, you guys were, if we could all reach out and hold hands, just see how that ripple in the pond goes. It's going to go across, you know, what's that song? I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, and they all join hands in that infamous Coke commercial. Well, we need to do that more. We need to reach out and share our stories, because it's what makes us human. And it's not just about, you shared your story and now we'll all share it, and then we'll share ours too.
Yeah.
Anybody have a last word on sharing stories and how important it is? All right. Well, we're going to end with my favorite quote. It's
Eileen was going to say
I
something.
just want to congratulate you, Eileen, on the courage that it took to write the story, and I hope that you continue to have a lot of success with it. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I know you.
well, we do. We are all getting to share each other's lives, and the more we come on board, it's just, you know, Mandy Haynes is my executive director. Do you know that I've never met her in person?
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were best friends.
We are best friends. I talk to her more than anybody in my whole family. I talk to her all the time. And
They won't talk to you, your family.
Well, my family, you know, they're close, but everybody's in this COVID thing. We try to be really careful. So you be really careful. Enjoy that granddaughter and daughter and your wonderful new life there. And go check out Breathless Wines. We would love a full report, because you're only 30 minutes away.
Let me know if you have anything you want me to say to them. Let me know.
Just say the Pulpwood Queen sent me, and
I will.
Karen Cohn is the owner with her sisters, and I think she's but just anybody there, just tell them that you're a member of the Pulpwood Queens Book Club, and if you let me know when you're going, I'll reach out to them and see if I can make a connection for you. Okay?
That sounds great.
Have some great wine and enjoy a great read. And it just keeps disappearing on me. I've got stacks of books around me right now because I'm working on my list with Mandy for 2022. So thank you, everybody. Read her book. It's all about the story. And Eileen, Kathy, Stephanie, Mandy, you guys, Eileen twice. I can't thank you enough for joining us. So till next time, let's see, coming up next is our book and film club, which we are going to have to pre-record. So you'll be seeing it recorded on Saturday night because Robert is attending one of his friends' book signing on Saturday night. So it'll be up. So thank you all so much. And let's get reading. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye.